It's going to happen again. So what's happening in TDS land? I just thought this was really interesting. And actually, he's one of the best writers there is. Hamilton Nolan. He was over it in these times. He has now started a Substack where he's going paid and independent on his own called How Things Work. Definitely give him a subscription. I am a free subscriber right now on Substack. We're going to go through a few different Substacks tonight. All the articles are actually found on Substack. So we're really going independent writers that are publishing on an independent platform that I am a big fan and supporter of. So Hamilton Nolan's talking about Trump, and it's going to happen again. What do you mean? Republicans are going to split the vote and hand the primary to Trump. Spoiler. And I don't think that anybody really doubted that Trump was going to end up as the nominee for the Republican Party. But this just, again, reconfirms, and look at him with, we're all friends here from Jebby Bush. Please clap. Hamilton, again, is talking about our friends over in the Republican Party. I don't know. But Hamilton is saying that sometimes when election year is looming, people who are under the mistaken impression that political reporters have some sort of worthwhile knowledge to anxiously ask, what is going to happen? The wise answer to this is almost always, I don't know. Occasionally, though, there's a small piece of insight that becomes so obvious that it seems rude not to make sure that everyone understands it. And in that spirit, I want to point out... Right on time!
Yeah, perfect.
Don't be rude.
Thank you. Yes. You're going to get a lot of thank yous again tonight. You got to have what
eventually
can I say,
he won't.
except you're welcome. You know? We'll have to add that in too. All right. So occasionally there is that small piece of insight. So in that spirit, we're going to point out something harder and harder to deny with each passing day. The Republicans are absolutely going to split the anti-Trump vote in the presidential primary and hand the nomination to Donald Trump. Does this sound familiar? Remember 2016? Yep. A simpler time. Very funny.
The hoes be knowing.
Do they? Americans love to listen to 21 Pilots. I didn't, and believed that the political alignment of the last 30 years would hold steady. Donald Trump, a fool, a joker, an amusing sideshow, entered the Republican primary. Ha ha, funny, a big joke. There were 17 candidates. Everybody knew Jeb Bush was the man to beat. Everyone knew Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio would be strong contenders. No, we didn't. Everyone knew that
They could have been a contender.
Everyone knew that John Kasich and Ben Carson were a force to be reckoned with. No, they weren't.
Don't forget Herman Cain, bro. Don't forget him. He thought the pyramids were grain silos.
Come on. Everyone knew that it would be a mistake.
Rest in peace.
Right. Everyone knew that it, but it was, oh goodness, many pieces. 9 pieces. Everyone knew that it would be a mistake for any of the real candidates to tarnish themselves by getting into a mud fight with Trump, so they all proceeded to spend the primaries knifing each other instead. Trump started winning, and they were all so happy because it meant that whichever real candidate emerged would just have the easy task of marching over this buffoon. Smart tactic was to nod and laugh and be friendly with Trump, who had no chance. The real race was for the non-Trump vote. This conventional wisdom, which everyone in the political establishment firmly believed, held solid right up until Trump took the nomination and all those real candidates got down on their hands and knees to endorse him. And then Ted Cruz humiliated himself by making phone calls after he called his wife ugly, which, fuck you, Ted Cruz.
Get on the plane. Get on the plane. Just go get on the plane. Get on the plane.
Christie. That was Chris Christie. After he went to go work for the campaign.
Forever?
So now it's later. Now we approach the 2024 primaries. That's just unbelievable. The main difference between 2016 and 2024 is that arrow of time. The arrow of time, despite the speculative work of physicists, runs in only one direction, which means 2016 is in the past, which gives us all the handy advantage of being able to access the events of that time in the form of memories. I love the way this guy writes.
Memories.
Boy. In theory, people might even learn lessons from the events of the past and modify their present conduct accordingly. In practice, we're about to do the same motherfucking thing again in an excruciating display of egos run wild. Okay. Yesterday, frequent Sunday talk show panelist and humiliation fetishist Chris Christie, as you so aptly referred to, joined the race for the Republican nomination. He joins a group of 10 candidates who've already declared for the race. He also joins a group of 5 other mainstream politicians, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, DeSantis, who are all going to be on the thumbnail for this clip, Asa Hutchinson, Mike Pence, all competing for the not Trump vote. A few more candidates might still be coming. There's also that guy Vivek, who he doesn't even mention. But Vivek Ramaswamy.
I don't know how you can be Mike Pence and think you can get the not Trump vote. You were literally his VP. Like,
well,
you know,
because he was going to testify against him, I guess, or they think that he was going to because the corporate media lied about it. But there are varying calculations that go into running for president, and everyone is motivated to some degree by the thought that the free media that goes with the campaign might be good for their careers even if they lose. But on the whole, each one of these candidates is making the implicit argument that they'll be the one who'll rally the party's majority, the 60 or 70% of Republican voters who are not solid for Trump, to their side and sweep to victory. I also don't think that there are really 60 or 70% of Republican voters who are not solid for Trump. I think those polls are just off and people are lying to the pollsters. But newsflash, they won't. Instead, they'll divide the vote and Trump's going to win the primaries unless he drops dead. Watch. Probably accurate. The single funniest political...
Don't be rude.
Well, it's what Hamilton wrote. It's not what I wrote. The single funniest political story I've read so far this year was this Politico story detailing the pitch that Ron DeSantis' political advisors were giving to top donors on the evening of his campaign launch. And see, this is a link I'm not clicking. They conceded that the former president would not likely go below roughly 35% support in a primary, but that such a floor allowed for DeSantis, his strongest rival, to take a larger share of the remaining 65% of the vote. Sure. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is you're starting out 35 points in the hole. Another way to look at it is 10 of us will fight like dogs over 2/3 of the electorate, each huddling in our corners with a small percentage in our mouths, while Trump luxuriates in a series of 35, 17, 17, 15, 9, 7 victories. DeSantis' straight pace.
This is like when Ryan Graham tried to have football analogies to Justin Jackson.
Oh my God. Yes. Well, come on. It's like you're down at the goal line and you just decide to punt.
Goal line and
What?
You suddenly start playing soccer.
What? No, I think actually he says you decide to kick a field goal instead of going for it, and
you just have to stare at the ball, says Ryan.
Justin owned him so bad. It's like sometimes you just actually have to go for it and take the shot. And you have to do that when you have when you're set up and you've put everything in place to win, because you could win. Yeah. DeSantis' straight-faced pitch to donors sounds like a losing football coach telling his team at halftime, "We may be down by 4 touchdowns, but there are potentially dozens of touchdowns left to be scored, so we're actually ahead." If you suspected that the major Ron DeSantis donors are dumb, you're onto something. Again, Hamilton Nolan's words, not mine. But I agree with him in that case. If the Republican Party had any remaining grip on itself, it would have viciously intimidated and bribed as many people as necessary to clear the field for a single main opponent to Trump. But Trump broke it quite thoroughly. The Republican Party, as a party today, operates in the sort of bumbling, ineffectual way that Democrats have long imagined their own party. A single sick bastard with TV charisma was enough to steamroll all of the party's power brokers. They're still afraid to attack him. Watching candidates flood into the Republican Party primary and do their little campaign what the hell is that? Was simulacrums? Okay. And strenuously pretend. I'm going to have to look that one up. And strenuously pretend that they will be able to dislodge Trump from their party without ever saying a bad word about him by outsourcing all Trump criticism to Chris fucking Christie, of all people. My God. Is one of the most pathetic spectacles I ever hope to witness. Well, buckle up, bro, because this is just the beginning. Unlike in 2016, in 2016, today, they don't even have the excuse of saying that nobody saw this coming. We've seen the same movie exactly before. I don't consider this analysis to be a demonstration of some profound wisdom. I just want to give you the option of saving yourself a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth over the next year. If 10 or a dozen people are competing for 51% of a pie and one guy starts out with 35% of the pie, it's not looking good for everyone else. If you had the opportunity to design a crusade to defeat the guy with the 35%, the very first conclusion you would draw probably would be, we better not have 10 people running against him. Republicans have already failed that test.
What about the 10%?
What about the 10%? What about the 10%?
What about the 10%? What about the 10%?
We have all spent the past 8 years inventing reasons why Trump is just about to collapse. Now, no. The
walls are closing in.
Vote blue no matter who. Palmer report people have.
The beginning of the end.
The indictments are going to be unsealed any day. I covered, and Hamilton says he covered the 2015 cattle call primary event in Iowa where Trump got on stage and said about John McCain, I like people who weren't captured. As soon as he said that, all the full-time campaign trail reporters leapt up and ran out to file stories about how Trump just torpedoed his chances. That, like the many insane remarks and scandals that were still to come, was not the case. It seemed a reasonable assumption at the time, sure. We can't expect people to be psychic, but we can expect people to learn from the past. Well, we know that most people don't learn from the past. But Trump's base is a statistical minority of the Republican Party. Yeah, maybe, but it's the part that votes. Their inability to outmaneuver him is perhaps the first time in history that Republicans have failed to figure out a way to persecute a minority. Damn. The problem is that they're all cowards. With few exceptions, Republican politicians are barnacles who are happy to go down with the ship as long as they can continue clinging safely to its side. Guess what, bro? That's Democrats too. You will hear some of these candidates launch some attacks on Trump when they finally can conclude that they have no choice. They may even say, as they have at certain opportune times before, that he's a bad, dangerous person. But when they lose to him, they will do the thing that is in their nature. They will fall in line. Also, just as a side note from Hamilton, he didn't think that Trump would win 2016. That experience taught him that only fools make confident political predictions. This is his disclaimer. All has now been disclaimed. Still, some of the observations we were making about Trump back then are still valid today. Yes, and guess what? It doesn't matter. That's what we've also learned. He wrote this about how we, the media, should approach covering this guy this time around. Also these will also be ignored. Yes, because they say that you should treat him like a bully and put him under a spotlight in a room that he'll never sit in under conditions he'd never agree to. Yeah, but beside that, sure. Okay. Then, thank you to the many people who subscribe to the Substack. It's interesting to think that the fact that when Michelangelo was painting, he had the Pope paying him. That's interesting. By contrast, I've not received a cent from the Vatican, despite the fact that many refer to how things work as the Sistine Chapel of blogs. Very funny. I depend on...
Oh, sure. Who says?
This is Hamilton Nolan.
Can I get citations?
Sure. I depend instead on paid subscribers whose thoughtful tides help to support this humble church of independent media. And if you want to get on God's good side...
once again asking for your financial support.
Dude. If you want to get on God's good side, please consider becoming a paid subscriber as well. Amen. Dude, blasphemy, heresy, hilarity. Come on, man, is exactly right. That is Hamilton Nolan with How Things Work. That's a funny article, but also a funny article, and we'll see how real that becomes. What do y'all think? All right, let's see. Yeah.
You played yourself.